Ethan Ward never thought his life would change on an ordinary shift. He was just a cargo technician on Station Delta 4, a huge metal city floating around the bright blue star of Tautini. His days were simple: check shipping containers, log deliveries, and make sure nothing dangerous came through the docking bays. He was one of thousands of workers who kept the station running like a machine. He liked the quiet routine and the long hours of calm. That day began like any other. The air smelled faintly of machine oil and recycled oxygen. Large windows showed the endless black of space, broken by the shimmering glow of Tautini's light. Ethan moved crates with a small grav lift, humming to himself. The work was slow but steady. He was thinking about calling his sister back on Earth later, when the station announcement interrupted his thoughts. "Attention all personnel," the voice said. "A diplomatic visit from the Thriel Empire will begin at 1400 hours. Security teams on alert." Cargo operations paused in Bay 6. Ethan's heart skipped a beat. The Thriel Empire was the most powerful alien nation humans had ever met. Their ships looked like silver wings, and their leaders were tall, graceful beings with shimmering skin and deep black eyes. Most humans had never even seen one up close. Yet Ethan had. 6 months ago, he had saved a young Thriel envoy during a hull breach accident. It had been pure instinct. He grabbed the alien's arm and pulled him to safety before the airlock sealed. He had not thought much of it afterward, but apparently someone important had remembered. Later that day, Ethan was called to a briefing. He was surprised to find 2 human diplomats waiting for him in the conference room. One was a woman in a dark suit, her face serious. The other was a security officer with a tablet. They told Ethan to stand by. A few minutes later, the door opened, and the room seemed to dim. The alien queen herself entered. Ethan had seen pictures of the queen before, but nothing prepared him for her presence. She stood over 2 meters tall, her skin glimmering with faint green and silver hues. She wore a flowing garment like liquid crystal. Her eyes were enormous and dark, reflecting the light. She did not walk so much as glide, her movements fluid and calm. Behind her came 2 attendants carrying a small box. Ethan swallowed hard and tried to stand straight. He felt out of place in his cargo uniform. The queen looked at him with something that might have been a smile. Her voice came through a translator on her shoulder. It was soft, musical, and clear. "Ethan Ward," she said, "you acted with courage. You saved the life of my envoy without thought of reward. In our culture, such an act is sacred. We do not forget." Ethan blinked. "I just did what anyone would have done," he said carefully. The queen raised one slender hand, silencing him. One of her attendants stepped forward and opened the small box. Inside lay a cube about the size of a fist. It shimmered with many colors at once, like a frozen piece of a rainbow. It made a faint humming sound, as if alive. "This," the queen said, "is a gift, a simple present. May it remind you that kindness is not forgotten between our peoples." Ethan hesitated, then reached out. The cube felt warm and surprisingly light, as if it wanted to float. The colors inside shifted slowly like moving water. As soon as his fingers touched it, the humming grew a little louder, then settled back down. "Thank you," Ethan said softly. "It's beautiful." The queen inclined her head. "Treat it with respect. It is attuned to you now." With that, she turned and left, her attendants following her. The door closed behind them, leaving Ethan and the 2 human diplomats in silence. The woman in the suit finally spoke. "You realize," she said, "we have no idea what that is. It could be a tracking device. Or worse." Ethan looked at the cube. It seemed harmless. "It's just a gift," he said. Security took pictures of the cube but allowed Ethan to keep it. They put sensors in his room to make sure it did not emit dangerous radiation. But nothing happened, at least at first. That night, Ethan sat in his small quarters holding the cube. His room was plain: a narrow bed, a desk, a wall screen. The cube's light made soft patterns on the walls. He turned it in his hands, marveling at the strange, shifting glow. It did not seem like any technology he knew. It did not even have seams or controls. It felt like holding a piece of a dream. He tried putting it down on the table. It stayed quiet for a while. He ate his dinner and tried to read a news feed, but he kept glancing back at the cube. It was like it was looking back at him. When he finally went to bed, he left the cube on his desk. As he drifted off to sleep, he heard a soft sound like a whisper. But when he opened his eyes, the room was still. In his dream, he saw a world of green skies and silver seas. Tall towers rose like crystal spires, and alien beings moved gracefully between them. He felt like he was flying above the world, seeing everything at once. A voice like music filled his head. It did not speak words but feelings, gratitude, connection, and promise. He woke with a start. The cube was glowing faintly in the dark. Its colors shifted in rhythm with his heartbeat. He reached out to touch it. It felt warm, almost alive. The next morning, Ethan found he remembered the dream perfectly, as if it had been a real place. He could even recall details of the towers and symbols he had never seen before. He tried drawing them on his tablet, and his hand moved faster than his mind. The symbols felt natural to him, though he did not know their meaning. At work, his colleagues noticed he was distracted. "You look like you didn't sleep," one said. "Still thinking about your alien girlfriend?" Ethan laughed awkwardly but said nothing. He kept the cube in his locker, hidden but close. By the end of the shift, security officers stopped him again. They had detected a faint energy surge from his quarters during the night. Ethan explained about the glow in the dream, but they only grew more suspicious. They wanted to take the cube for testing, but when they tried, it flickered and vanished, reappearing in Ethan's hands a moment later. The officers looked shaken. "This thing is bound to you," one muttered. "We can't remove it." Ethan felt a strange protectiveness toward the cube. It had chosen him or had been given to him for a reason. He was not sure what that reason was yet. But deep inside, he felt both excited and uneasy. Something was changing, and he could not stop it. That night, as he held the cube in his hands, he remembered the Queen's words, "It is attuned to you now." The phrase echoed in his mind. He wondered if the gift was truly simple, or if it carried a purpose far beyond anything he could imagine. The cube sat on Ethan's desk, glowing faintly in the dim light of his quarters. Its colors shifted slowly, like waves in a calm sea. It had been 2 days since the alien queen gave it to him, and life on Station Delta 4 already felt different. He had tried to go about his normal work. He loaded containers, checked fuel seals, and signed off on docking reports. But the cube would not leave his mind. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw alien towers and skies of strange colors. He could almost feel the warm wind of some faraway world on his face. That night, the change began. Ethan lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. The station's soft hum of engines was a constant background sound, but tonight he heard something else. A low rhythmic pulse like a heartbeat. He sat up and realized it was coming from the cube. It glowed brighter, casting moving patterns on the walls. When he reached for it, the cube lifted on its own. It floated a few centimeters above the desk, spinning slowly. Ethan's mouth went dry. He had seen alien technology before, but never like this. The cube's colors deepened, forming strange symbols in the air, symbols he somehow recognized without knowing why. "Hello?" Ethan whispered. He felt foolish, but the moment the word left his mouth, the cube responded. A faint stream of light stretched from it toward his forehead like a thin thread of energy. It didn't touch him, but he felt a spark in his mind, a warmth spreading behind his eyes. Images poured into his head. Planets, stars, flowing rivers of silver light. He gasped and gripped the edge of the bed. It was like falling into a dream while awake. He saw flashes of the alien queen's face, her huge dark eyes watching him, not with menace but with quiet interest. The images faded after a minute. Ethan was left shaking, his heart racing. The cube settled back onto the desk, its glow soft again. He touched his forehead but found nothing there. "What are you doing to me?" he whispered. The cube remained silent. The next morning, Ethan felt different. The station lights seemed sharper. He could hear the faint clicks of distant machinery, the hiss of air vents, even the murmur of people talking 2 corridors away. His mind felt awake, like he had slept for days. At work, he noticed things before they happened. A loose crate about to slide off a rack. He caught it without thinking. A sudden power fluctuation. He saw it on the panel seconds before the alarm went off. His colleagues stared. "You're on fire today," his supervisor joked. "Finally got some sleep?" Ethan just smiled weakly. He didn't want to explain. How could he? That evening, the dreams returned. This time they were even clearer. He stood in a vast hall of glass and stone. Alien beings moved around him, speaking in a language he somehow understood. They were showing him something, a device, a map, a history older than Earth. He felt their thoughts like whispers against his own. When he woke, he could still remember their words. He sat at his desk and began to write. His hand moved quickly, drawing shapes and characters he had never seen before. They flowed out of him. Ethan Ward had always considered himself an ordinary man, a cargo technician, a helper, someone who kept the station running. Yet now, after days of dreams, strange visions, and inexplicable skills, he felt anything but ordinary. The cube from the alien queen pulsed softly on his desk, glowing in gentle colors that seemed almost alive. Its presence was no longer a curiosity. It was a part of him, as though it had merged with his thoughts, his senses, even his feelings. He had tried to ignore it during the day, but he could not. Every moment of quiet seemed to amplify the pulse in his hand. The cube responded to his emotions, shimmering brighter when he felt nervous or anxious. One evening, alone in his quarters, he picked it up and stared into its depths. He had begun experimenting with it, learning small things, moving it with thought, feeling patterns in data, sensing faint signals from other sections of the station. But tonight the cube did something different. A beam of light shot out from its center, forming a shimmering shape in the air. A figure appeared, taller than a human, with flowing silver robes that caught the light. Ethan gasped. It was the alien queen, or at least a representation of her. She looked at him directly with those vast, dark eyes filled with calm intelligence and something else, almost like warmth. Ethan Ward. Her voice echoed in his mind, soft but clear. You are ready? Ethan's hands shook. Ready for what? He asked aloud, though the words were barely above a whisper. To understand, to connect, to learn what your world cannot see and mine cannot show. The figure's eyes seemed to look inside him. You and the cube are linked. It is no longer just a gift. It is a bridge, Ethan swallowed. A bridge? Yes, the queen said. Through it you will see my people, understand our knowledge, and share your humanity with us. But you must remain yourself. Balance is the key. Ethan stared at the cube in his hands. The warmth in its glow intensified, as though responding to her words. He felt a strange sensation in his mind, like a soft tide of thought flowing into his own. It was not painful. It was not frightening. It was gentle, inviting. He suddenly knew things he could not have learned. He recognized alien symbols previously meaningless as maps of energy flow. He saw the logic of Thrial starships, the design of their living habitats, even the purpose of tiny tools he had thought were decoration. It was as if the cube were teaching him, opening doors in his brain he did not know existed. This is incredible, Ethan whispered. I can understand it. All of it. Yes, the queen said. But understanding is not enough. You must feel. You must connect, Ethan frowned. Connect how? Your mind is linked to the cube. Through it, you can share thoughts and emotions with my people. Not all are ready, but some will respond. You are the first human capable of this. That is why I chose you. He felt a rush of pride, quickly followed by doubt. Why me? I'm just me. A cargo worker. The queen's holographic face tilted slightly. Because you chose courage without reward. That is the measure of a leader, even in small acts. You can carry more than most. You can carry understanding. That is why you were chosen. Ethan took a deep breath. He had saved an alien life months ago and thought little of it. Now somehow that single act had set him on a path that would change not just his life, but the lives of millions. The weight of it pressed on him, but the cube's warmth was comforting, grounding him in the moment. Over the next days, Ethan experimented with the cube. He began small, simple thoughts and images. When he focused, he could see the queen's world as if standing on its surface. The light of alien suns bathed him. Towering structures of crystal and metal stretched into the sky. Beings with flowing forms moved about, their thoughts clear to him like words in a book. It was intoxicating. He could spend hours exploring, yet the more he used it, the more he realized he could not share this knowledge with anyone else. Not fully. Words were inadequate. He had seen worlds humans could only imagine. He had glimpsed technology far beyond human understanding, and yet he could only hint at it in conversation. The cube also began to teach him practical skills. One evening, he tried repairing a broken power conduit in the cargo bay. Normally, it would have taken hours to trace the fault and fix the circuit. With the cube's guidance, his hands moved instinctively. He bypassed the fault, repaired the connections, and restored the system in minutes. His supervisor watched in disbelief. You did that already? The man asked, staring at the panel. Ethan shrugged. Just felt it out. It was more than instinct. The cube seemed to transmit knowledge directly into his mind, showing him the logic of machines, the flow of energy, the correct steps before he even thought about them. He realized he was no longer limited to human learning speed. Yet the connection was not only practical. The cube shared emotions too. Ethan felt the Queen's pride and concern as he worked. He sensed her caution and the subtle joy she felt in teaching him. It was overwhelming at times, but also comforting. One night, he lay in bed holding the cube. Its glow bathed the room in soft colors. He could feel waves of emotion, calm, curiosity, and gentle patience. The Queen's presence was not just in his mind anymore. It felt as if she was standing beside him, guiding him like a mentor. "You are ready to reach further," the Queen said in his mind, "to see not just my people, but to understand their motives, their fears, and their hopes. This is the next step. You will become a bridge in ways humans have never been." Ethan's mind raced. "But I don't know if I can do it. How can I be a bridge? I'm still human. I'm just me." "You are human," the Queen replied gently, "and that is enough. Your humanity is what allows the connection. Empathy, courage, understanding. That is more powerful than technology or strength." For the first time, Ethan realized that the cube's gift was not just knowledge. It was perspective. It allowed him to feel alien emotions without losing his own, to think in new ways while keeping his humanity intact. It was not a tool. It was a guide. The next day, Ethan began testing the cube in more controlled ways. He attempted to communicate with alien personnel on the station, projecting small thoughts through the cube. At first, nothing happened. But then a technician paused mid-task and turned to him, her eyes wide. She blinked rapidly and then nodded as though acknowledging a hidden understanding. It was subtle, almost imperceptible, but Ethan felt the connection. The cube had allowed a bridge, even if momentarily. He smiled to himself, understanding the scale of what was possible. He also realized that the cube was teaching him patience. The connection was delicate. He could push too far and it might fail, or worse, cause confusion. He would have to learn control, a discipline beyond anything he had ever known. By the end of the week, Ethan's perception of the station had changed completely. He noticed details he had once overlooked: the way lights flickered in response to energy flow, the subtle hum of engines as they adjusted to docking ships, even the rhythm of his fellow workers' movements. It was as if the cube had turned the station into a living organism, and he could see its heartbeat. He knew one thing for certain: his life would never be the same. The cube had bonded with him. The Queen had chosen him for a reason, and now he had begun to step onto a path that would not only teach him new knowledge and skills, but also new responsibilities. He looked at the cube, holding it carefully. "I don't know what comes next," he whispered. "But I will learn. I have to." The cube pulsed in response, warm and steady, like a heartbeat answering his own. And for the first time, Ethan felt a deep, unshakable certainty. He was no longer alone in the universe. The connection had begun, and with it, the first true step toward becoming the bridge between two worlds. One morning, Ethan was walking down the cargo bay corridor when Lieutenant Caro, a stern-faced security officer, approached him. "Ward," Caro said, his voice low but firm. "We need to talk now." Ethan's stomach tightened. He had anticipated this day. "Sure, Lieutenant." "What's this about?" Caro glanced around, ensuring no one else was listening. "Your cube. Command is worried. They say it's influencing you, that it could be dangerous." Ethan's hands instinctively tightened around the small, glowing object in his pocket. "It's just a gift from the alien queen. It's attuned to me. That's all," Caro frowned. "We've seen what it does. Your reactions, your skills, the way systems respond to you. This isn't normal. Command wants to isolate the cube for study. They'll take it from you if necessary." Ethan's heart pounded. "They can't. The cube won't leave me." Caro's expression grew serious. "We'll see about that. Don't make this harder than it has to be." That night, Ethan held the cube and thought about the warning. He knew the cube could protect him if needed, but he did not want to fight humans, especially not security personnel who had no idea of what they were dealing with. Still, he could sense the tension growing, not just with humans, but with some 3L envoys. Not all of them trusted him. The cube was a symbol of the Queen's favor, and favoritism often bred suspicion. He looked at the pulsing object in his hands. It felt alive, as if it understood his thoughts. The glow brightened slightly, responding to his concern. Ethan whispered, "I don't want conflict. But I can't give you up, not now." The cube vibrated softly, almost like a heartbeat. The next day, Ethan noticed unusual activity near the docking bays. Ethan Ward had spent weeks learning to understand the cube, to communicate through it, and to feel the presence of the alien queen guiding him. He had seen glimpses of alien worlds, understood foreign symbols, and repaired complex systems with a precision that amazed both humans and aliens. Yet all this knowledge came with a price: suspicion. On Station Delta 4, tension was growing. Security teams monitored him closely, and whispers followed him down corridors. Some 3L envoys no longer greeted him warmly. Instead, they exchanged wary glances and subtle warnings. Ethan felt the weight of responsibility pressing on him, heavier than he had ever known. It was during one late-night shift that Ethan first realized how serious the danger had become. While checking cargo containers near the outer docks, he noticed unusual activity on the station sensors. Several small transport ships had docked quietly, avoiding routine scans. They moved in strange patterns, coordinating with precision. Ethan frowned. The cube pulsed lightly in his hand, almost as if it were alerting him. He placed it on the table and watched the holographic patterns it projected. Symbols and shapes appeared, showing trajectories and signals that he could barely understand. But the cube guided him. A sense of urgency filled the room. Someone was planning something dangerous. He quickly projected a query through the cube, sending a mental signal toward the 3L network. Images and fragments of conversation appeared in his mind. Masked figures, stolen energy cores, and unauthorized movement of weapons. Both humans and aliens were involved. Some extremists were planning sabotage, a way to undermine peace between the two species. Ethan's heart pounded. He had expected suspicion, but not actual danger. He realized that his loyalty, to humans, to the 3L, and to the bond with the cube, would be tested in a way he had never imagined. The next morning, he prepared carefully. He mapped out the locations of the rogue groups using the cube's guidance. Every detail was precise: who was moving where, what they carried, and when they would act. His mind worked faster than ever, yet his emotions threatened to overwhelm him. Fear and determination mixed in equal measure. He knew he could not alert the station authorities directly. Too many people feared the cube, and some might react in anger or panic. He had to act alone. The cube pulsed in his hand, warm and steady, giving him the courage to move forward. Ethan waited until the shift changed. Under the cover of low activity, he made his way to the first target, an abandoned docking bay on the station's outer rim. The cube projected a faint map of the area, highlighting hidden corridors and access points. He moved silently, avoiding patrols. Through the cube, he could sense the intentions of those inside. Two figures were placing devices on the hull of a cargo ship. Their conversation was muffled, but he could feel the tension in their minds: greed, fear, and determination. Ethan inhaled deeply. The cube pulsed once, as if encouraging him. Using the skills it had taught him, he approached carefully, projecting a subtle signal of authority. The figures froze, their movement slowing as though something invisible held them in place. "You need to stop," Ethan said aloud, stepping forward. The cube's energy formed a protective barrier around him, gentle but firm. The extremists glared, but they could not move toward him. One of the figures shouted, "What is this? How can he—" The cube pulsed again, stronger this time. Energy flowed from it, creating a soft but undeniable warning. The extremists realized that they could not touch him without consequences. It was non-lethal, but it was clear. Ethan Ward had the power to defend himself and prevent harm. He spoke calmly, reasoning with them. "You're trying to cause destruction. You're risking lives, human and alien alike. Stop now or this ends here." For a tense moment, they hesitated. Then, recognizing that they could not overpower him, they retreated. Ethan used the cube to secure the devices, carefully deactivating them. The danger was averted, but he knew this was only the beginning. The cube guided him next to a hidden storage area, where more explosives had been placed by the extremists. The corridor was narrow, lined with stacked containers. Ethan could feel the tension in the air, the fear and determination of the saboteurs. With the cube's help, he moved with precision, disabling the devices before they could harm anyone. He noticed the cube pulsing more intensely than ever. It was not just guiding him, it was communicating urgency, pride, and trust. He realized that the bond with the cube had become more than connection. It was partnership. Hours later, after securing the last device, Ethan sat in a quiet corner of the station, exhausted. His body ached, but his mind was alert. The cube glowed softly beside him. Through it, he sensed the Queen's quiet presence. "You acted with courage," she said in his mind. "You prevented disaster. You upheld the bond." Ethan breathed deeply. "I did what I had to. I couldn't let anyone get hurt." "Indeed," she replied. "And yet this is only the first test. Others will come. Your loyalty, your judgment, and your understanding will be challenged. But you have proven your heart is strong." The next day, the station erupted in rumors. Security officers and diplomats had discovered traces of the extremists' activity, but they could not identify the culprit. Many suspected sabotage, but no one knew who had stopped it. Ethan's actions remained secret, hidden from the station authorities. He smiled faintly. He had succeeded without drawing attention, but the weight of responsibility pressed on him. The cube had given him power, knowledge, and insight, but with that came the constant challenge of choice. Every decision carried consequences. Ethan spent the following week reflecting on the trial he had faced. The cube had taught him more than how to react. It had taught him patience, empathy, and foresight. He realized that being a bridge between humans and aliens was not about power. It was about understanding, compassion, and courage. He practiced daily with the cube, learning to sense emotions more clearly, anticipate potential dangers, and project calm influence over tense situations. He felt a deepening connection to the Queen, but he never forgot his humanity. The balance was delicate, but it was possible. By the end of the week, Ethan had gained confidence. He knew he could face future challenges, whether from human or alien extremists. He had passed his first trial, proving that he could act decisively, responsibly, and with integrity. The cube pulsed warmly in his hand, as if acknowledging his success. The bond between them had grown stronger, deeper, and more intuitive. It was no longer a simple gift. It was a partnership, a bridge, and a guide. Ethan stood by the window of his quarters, looking out at the stars beyond Station Delta 4. He had once been an ordinary man, a cargo technician with no special skills or recognition. Now he was something more, a protector, a bridge between worlds, and he knew deep in his heart that greater challenges lay ahead. The trial of loyalty had been the first step. Many more would come, but for the first time Ethan felt ready. He whispered softly to the cube, "I'll keep learning. I'll keep protecting. I won't let anyone down." The cube pulsed in response, warm and steady, its light reflected in Ethan's eyes. For the first time he felt certain of his purpose. The bond was real, the connection strong, and the path forward clear. Ethan Ward, the ordinary cargo technician, had become extraordinary. The trial of loyalty was complete, but the story was far from over. The station was unusually quiet that evening. Ethan Ward stood at the observation deck of Station Delta 4, gazing at the black stretch of space dotted with distant stars. The cube rested in his hands, glowing softly, a steady pulse that had become both comforting and guiding. He had come a long way. In just weeks, the cube had changed him. His understanding of alien technology, his perception of emotions, and his ability to anticipate danger. He had learned patience, courage, and the delicate balance required to protect both humans and Thrial. Yet despite all this, he felt an unease he could not shake. Something was coming. He could sense it, not through alarms or scans, but through the cube. A subtle vibration, a warning like the gentle heartbeat of something alive and important. The message came suddenly. The cube projected a holographic figure, the alien queen, her form shimmering in calm green and silver light. "Ethan Ward," she said, her voice soft but commanding, echoing in his mind. "The time has come. You must act. Forces that seek to disrupt peace are gathering. They are more organized than before, and both species are unaware of the danger. You are the bridge now. You must guide them." Ethan's heart pounded. "What do I do?" he whispered aloud, though the cube seemed to respond before he even finished speaking. "You must be both human and something more. Show your courage, your empathy, your understanding. Lead without commanding, protect without aggression. You have learned much. Now apply it. He took a deep breath. The cube pulsed, warm and steady, reassuring him. Ethan knew this was the moment he had been preparing for. The final test, the moment when he would prove that the bond was more than power. It was wisdom, compassion, and humanity. The next morning, Ethan moved quickly through the station corridors, heading to the central hub. Security teams and alien envoys had gathered for a routine briefing. But through the cube, he sensed tension and suspicion. Extremists, both human and alien, had infiltrated the station. They planned to trigger a conflict, a small act that could ignite fear and anger on both sides. Ethan entered the